Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know, I'm excited that you're here. So look, here's the deal, right? That word change, everybody kind of freaks out. We get the knot in our stomach. Oh my God, here we go. So whether you've chosen the change or the change has been thrust upon you, for me and my 6 decades on this earth, I have learned that to navigate change with as much ease and grace as you can, you need to be able to communicate effectively. So how do we do that? In the show notes, you have a gift for me. It's my communication style assessment. You get 2 reports. One, natural communication superpowers. It is important for you to know that so you understand how your message just kind of naturally lands for people. Flip side, and this is the more important report. The secondary report represents your lowest score, which is a blind spot, which is when you speak to people 180 degrees different than you. How is your message landing? That's really important for you to read that report. So again, show notes, take the quiz, you get those 2 reports, my gift to you, and I hope it helps you navigate whatever change you're facing in your life, career, business, etc. So to set the stage for my very cool guest and my conversation today, I chose a quote by Christopher McDougall. And Christopher says, "Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the slowest gazelle or it will starve. It doesn't matter whether you're the lion or the gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running." Love that quote. Had to play with it today. And after meeting my guest now, it was the right quote because he's got a real good sense of humor. Reality check, right? Every day, new beginning. So whatever happened yesterday, no matter whether it was good or bad, put it aside because today's a new day to create and generate those new opportunities, those new sales, and hopefully those win-win-win outcomes. Even if yesterday was a great day, today is not the time to rest on laurels. No one remembers what you did in the past. So please show up and be ready for today and really into the future. You hold the power in your hands and you prepare. You need to be prepared to continue to adapt and shift no matter what's happening in your particular industry. So who is my very cool guest? His name is Glenn Sandifer. Glenn, who has 20 years of experience in regional and national field sales and marketing roles. Currently, Glenn has the privilege of leading a world-class inside sales and client success group within the securities industry. Glenn is focused on developing inside sales and customer success teams and deploying an outbound contact strategy. He also founded Glenn Sandifer Consulting, which aims to aid smaller security dealers in developing those winning programs and plans for predictable revenue and long-term success. Glenn is from Indiana and now resides in the awesome place of Nashville, Tennessee, with his wife and 2 kids. Please help me welcome Glenn to the show. So Glenn, thanks for being on, and I'm excited about our conversation.
Thank you, Connie. Thank you for the introduction and thanks for the invite.
Yeah. So you're cool. We're going to have fun. And it's interesting that you two work with people in the financial industry. So we're cool. And yet we belong to this, what traditionally has been a stodgy industry. But we're changing the world, right? One person at a time. Yeah. So now you've worked in multiple industries. I know that you've worked in QSR, automotive, and consumer electronics. What key sales strategies did you find to be universal across no matter what the sector you've worked in?
I think the strategies that I have found that are universal across every sector would be relationship management. And let me tell you what I mean. So if I came from the QSR world, and when I sold into QSR versus running a QSR, what I found is that was similar. I had relationships with our regular clients, and it was my opportunity in the QSR to gain a new client, gain a regular. When I started calling on them and providing support to the QSR, I had to have relationships with an expanded group of owner operators, at advertising professionals, media professionals, vendors, vendor support teams, and then people within the organization and the corporation in which we were serving. And I found that the better my relationships were, the better the outcomes were for the business. I'll flip that now as being in the security industry, and we service a lot of those in the financial sector. The relationships help us to create predictable revenue because we know we are a part of the security strategy moving forward. So I would say in any industry, if you're a salesperson and across the board, if you focus on the relationship side of the business and the partnership, I think you'll find sustained success.
And that's where you get the win-win-win, right? We're just talking before we recorded that my kids played hockey. We're big hockey fans, so I call it the hat trick, right, of
Mhm.
sales. But it's the salesperson certainly wins, the client wins, and then the organization as a whole wins. You got to go back to the basics, which is all about the relationship. It's that know, like, trust. People deal with people, and we make decisions through that subconscious realm, right? You think of the iceberg, it's that underwater. That's where
Mhm.
people are making decisions. So it has to be relationship based, not just vomiting statistics or all the features of what you're selling, and or in your case, the security, how you're going to protect them, right? So
Mhm.
it's all about people being with people.
Yeah, people being with people. And, I've been on a number of podcasts this year and we've all talked about AI, and everyone's afraid AI is going to take over the world and take over sales jobs. You can't, because people still want to buy from people. As
Absolutely.
much as e-commerce took a hold in the 90s and the 2000s, we still like to return stuff to Target. We still like to have a good relationship and a good experience with Amazon, and we know our drivers now. So the relationship piece will never. I know my driver. He's getting a Christmas card this year. So
I love it.
he's a good guy. No box has ever been damaged at our front porch. So yep.
Yep. People do business with people they like, know, and
Mhm.
trust. That's how it goes. So how do you approach inspiring the sales teams to maintain not only that high performance, especially when the industry might be going through challenges like the AI, right? AI is going to eliminate certain routine type positions, but I
Mhm.
agree. I don't think it's going to impact the salesperson if you're good and remain relevant. So how do you maintain those high performance teams?
I think for high performing teams, I think what I found successful has been making the investment in the people first, and
Mm,
then building off of their strengths and basically hiding their weaknesses. I look at it the same way we look at basketball. I played basketball in high school. And I'm not one of those people who felt I was an injury away from being in the league. I just wasn't good enough, but I played in high school. But I look at Steph Curry and his career. What does Steph Curry do better than anyone else? He shoots threes. The second thing he does best is he moves without the ball. What he does not do well is defense. What he does not do well is positioning and flow of the offense. He has Draymond Green, he had Klay Thompson, he had Kevin Durant, he had Andre Iguodala to do all of those other things, so he could be the best version of himself and be the greatest shooter that we've ever seen in the history of the NBA. So I find that the approach of making sure that my team members are in the areas of their strength. If you're strong with inbound, you're going to be on inbound. If you're strong with outbound prospecting code, you're going to be strong there. If you are someone who's better with strategy and development and you've proven yourself, I'm going to give you project and program experience to help grow and develop you. You can do that in an organization without having to give a formalized title, because I believe the reason people are in corporate America is because through their mind, this may be the easiest path for me to get the outcome and the lifestyle that I want. But I think they also want to grow. And if you don't want to grow, you can't consider yourself a high performer or a high performing individual. And so I think that by giving people the opportunity to be the best version of themselves and grow in the areas that they would like, and, present their strengths, leads to the best outcome for a business.
it's interesting because when I go in and I consult mostly with banks and credit unions, right? So I'm in the financial service industry. That's just where I grew up. And when I go in and we do training and they'll say, oh, we have the best people. And they do. They have good hearts, they care, all of those things. They're not, that doesn't mean they're skilled people. And
Mhm.
what ends up happening when I start to do the training for the sales, but then I do the coaching piece, right? Because now who's going to support that and sustain those changes and continue to push the people to use those skills, right? Again, to be with the client. And when I coach, I say 10% of your people are high performers right now. And you
Mhm.
see them get appalled. And it's not an insult. The
Yeah.
reality is 10% of your people are high performers. They come through my training, they hear it, they're off to the races. They
Yep.
don't need anything else.
Yep.
The bulk of your people, the 70, 80%, need you to coach them because they
Mhm.
understand they want to do it. They're afraid to do it. They don't know how to do it. They don't know what that next step is. So everybody
Mhm.
thinks they're a high performer. I'm a high performer in certain things and I'm not in others. You have to know what your strengths are, but you also have to know what those blind, I don't like the word weakness. I don't ever use that. I say blind spots. And I like how you said, if you shine your light on what you're doing well, the other stuff doesn't matter. And then one other thing I wanted to share, in the intro, I shared my communication style assessment. I believe to create a high performing team, you need each of the styles of communication because you and I
Yes.
communicate differently. Your blind spots aren't my blind spots. My
Mhm.
blind spots aren't your blind spots. You put us together, we're the dynamic duo, right?
Right.
So that's the importance too of being real with your people. And it's not a put down. It's not a negative, but by being honest with them and making them relevant and making them into high performers, I believe you need a team to do that. So I do agree with everything you just said. Shine your light, do that, and then
Mhm.
have other people support you with whatever their skills are.
And it makes as a leader, it makes your job easier. I mean, it's part of the if you're an individual contributor, what I need you to understand is the best thing you can do is make your boss's day easier.
Yeah.
Don't make it harder intentionally with things. And if you do make your boss's life easier, your life will get easier at work. Guarantee.
And see, it goes back to becoming that high performer. If you
Mhm.
show up for your leader, they'll make you the
They'll
right
show up.
man. They're going to leverage you and
Yeah.
use you. You're going to grow naturally. You're going to be exposed to the CEO, whatever it is, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden you're getting promoted. So yeah, it's a whole ripple effect that we're
Yeah.
talking about here, right? That's kind of on the undercarriage. Next question: can you share a time personally when you had to shift, adapt to your personal sales strategy because the industry itself was changing so quickly? And what lessons did you learn from that experience, if anything?
Wow. That's a really good question. Industry that shifted. I'll make it best because the timing also impacted. So the market changed. So we all read stories and we're watching documentaries on the 2008, 2009 financial crisis now. All of us, most of your audience has probably lived through that in some form as a small business owner or as an employee.
Yep.
During that time, I was working. I don't work for them anymore, so I could say the name. So I was working for what at the time was not today's Samsung.
Okay.
Samsung today is completely different than what it was when I took the job in 2007. When I took the job in 2007, it was the bulk stack at the local Best Buy. And I'm going to start saying some names that really kind of show my age. Circuit City, Sears, we had Fry's, Costco, and now Indiana's own H.H. Gregg. So we were the bulk stack, and my job was to get more sell through at all of the retail locations and manage a small business portfolio. So it was two jobs in one. Yay. So when I accepted the job in 2007, comp plan was different, the role was different, the expectation and activity was different. 2008 happens, January of 2009, they say your job is now changing. You guys are not only just going to be sell through, you're going to be sales. You are going to have to go out and not only sell from the retail channel, but sell into small business and sell into enterprise. So I had to shift my mind. Oh, by the way, and you have to own the merchandising at each of your stores. Congratulations, you get to keep your job. And during that time, everyone was losing jobs. So we had to shift from being a sales support to actual salespeople. And what I did was I got really focused on understanding the industries that Samsung was focused in, which were at that time home theater, sound, computers, printers, MP3 players. If no one knows what an MP3 player is that's listening, MP3 players, cell phones before there was an Android, and cameras. So those were kind of the seven categories. Oh, sorry, and home appliance because Samsung thought that they could be a home appliance company. They are now, but we were awful. So I had to learn all 8 of those industries. I had to learn the top 5 players. I had to learn about the feature benefit analysis, and I had to do a better job at discovery. So I had to learn a better sales approach in
Yeah.
the store, which is different than in an enterprise account, which is different than a SME account. And so as I did that shift after that first year, '07 to '08, I was number one. I stayed at the top, '09, 10, 11, 12.
Nice.
No one could ever catch me in sales numbers. And I was in a territory. Indiana is flyover country, according to most people. I had a territory in the state of Indiana, parts of Illinois, Ohio, and Kentucky. So we're not talking Northeast. We're not talking Chicago during its peak. So I had to take the territory that was given, apply those tools, apply those lessons, learn the business. The other thing that changed outside of that, kind of those factors of the market, the industry began to shift. You can get a 70-inch TV today for $500. When I started, we were doing packages out the door for 10 grand. So commission was great. Everyone was happy. Sears employees were happy. Every Circuit City guys were all commission. But as the industry started to get economies of scale and we started to see more entrants, you could no longer guarantee that you were going to get that 10K. You had to start building value off of feature benefit and
Yeah.
understanding through a qualification process every person you touch. That's
Yeah.
exhausting. But I learned that through that exhaustion to get the outcome of being the top performer is what I wanted to be.
See, it's mindset.
Mindset. Yep.
It's absolutely mindset. I have a question now. Of all the other your peers that were in that same boat, they were literally in the same boat. Here's your new job. Take it or leave it, right? And they had other people that were in line that were losing their job that would have been happy to take it. How many
Mhm.
succeeded and how many ended up leaving? Curious. Do you know? You might not know the answer to that. I know it's
Well, I
wild, but
know, well, in '09, I remember the conversation, and I remember my boss pulling me to the side, please don't quit. Because he recruited me from QSR. He was like, I need you. I need someone outside of the industry who understands customer service. So anyway, there were about 9 people that walked out the door and they went to a company that's now defunct. They said we're not doing it, and then they all got jobs doing the same thing that we were doing, and we were ahead of what the industry was doing.
yep,
Looking back at it,
yep,
because that role is now a role that has been commoditized. If you go into a Best Buy now, you're going to get 6 blue shirts, which are the Best Buy employees, and then you're going to have reps, assisted sales reps throughout that are wearing the brand of whatever they're promoting, HP, Dell, Sony, etc. They tried to stick to the old model, the model that I accepted the job for, and it ultimately bankrupted their company. And they had to come out of that business model as a whole. But the remaining people, I think, so in nine, there was a structure. Oh, this is good. In nine, there was a structure change too. So we went from a flat organization, all reporting to VPs, to standard district marketing specialists, seniors. And of this, there were 4 seniors that started, 2 left, and then they promoted 4 more. 2 more left, and then they only promoted 1 more. And then you started to see people leave at the other 2 levels. And part of it was people were kind of, this is really a good lesson. They were holding on to what the old world was,
yeah,
and they could not adapt to the changes. I adapted to the changes, and they sent me on trips.
yeah.
They sent me TVs, they sent me hams for the holiday, because I was driving such a large number for the business. And I will say today, I still stay in touch with about 20 or so of those original peers that I had. They're all doing well. All of the ones who all committed ourselves to the process, they're all doing very well.
It's simple. You have
Mhm.
to change. Like life does not stay still. Thus, why the dinosaurs are now
Mhm.
extinct. Like
Mhm.
it happens. So I hear it all the time too, Glenn. It's so funny. I go in and they say, "Oh, the managers when the people go through training, and some of them, the old school managers say, yeah, we don't do it that way here." And I just
Mm.
giggle and I think, and you ain't gonna be here long
You're not going to be here long.
because you're not remaining relevant. And
Mhm.
it's funny because now a lot of young kids are coming in right through the training, and I tell them stories and I say, listen to me. And I'm an old lady. You're young. You're starting your career. I'm on the back 9.
Mhm.
Remain relevant. Change is going to happen. Your boss says to you, hey, would you like to learn? Don't even let them finish the sentence. Your response, sure, teach me. Sure, I'll learn that. Because by you staying up to date with whatever's changing in the industry will help you remain relevant. So
Mhm.
it changes here, changes every day. If you're not changing, in my view, I think we're dying a slow death.
Mhm.
So you
Mhm.
have to stay relevant. And that was such a great story, where the people, they left to go back to do what they were doing because it was comfortable, I'm sure, right? I know what
Mhm.
I'm doing, it's
Mhm.
comfortable. And then they were out of a job anyway. But now here's the danger. 2 years later, the rest of the world has moved forward and they're still stagnating behind where they were 2 years. There was no growth.
No
That's
growth.
dangerous. That's
Mhm.
really dangerous. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Why would you want to do that, right?
Right. But and I think you hit the nail on the head. Most people want to do it because it's comfortable. My team, to your point, my team says that I say yes too much. And like, you want to know why I say yes? And they're like, why? Because it creates more opportunity for you. I don't need any more work to do. I'm established. I want to make sure all of you are growing and developing and have the opportunity, because if you walk out that door, like some have left me, they all won't come back. They're like, hey, I see that you have an opening. I was like, oh, you want to come back now? Okay. Well, tell me about what's going on and why you want to leave your current situation. But by staying relevant and staying open to change and staying open to new opportunities, you keep yourself relevant and in the moment.
And it's funny because I've been in sales 4 decades, Glenn, and it hasn't changed. Oh, and it has changed. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying,
Mhm.
right? The
Mhm.
human aspect. When I started my career, and I'll just share a quick story. Um, I was selling insurance, and my sales manager was an abomination. Should not have been a manager, but anyway,
Mhm.
yelled at me, screamed at me, whatever. I go out for my first call, and it was a blue collar couple. He wanted life insurance. My listeners have heard the story before. The long and short of it was they couldn't afford it. It would have lapsed. It would never have worked. Now I was going for my MBA at night in finance. So I said to them,
Mhm.
please, you have to trust me. Can I put you on a budget? We'll work through a budget that you can live with. We'll make sure we carve out that $50 or whatever, $100, whatever it was
Yeah.
for the premium. 6 months from now, you'll still have the life insurance and you'll be on a budget. So kicking and screaming because he wanted the life insurance for the wife. We ended up doing it. I go back, my manager goes, you're a moron. Why are you doing that? And I said, because my job is to teach these clients, trust me, I know it's the right thing to do. Well, fast forward,
Mhm.
made the sale, of
Mhm.
course. He became my best referrer. I was
Wow.
getting referrals, 3 appointments a week with all of the people he worked with saying, can you do what you did for him? Can you help us do
Mhm.
that? Because we need the
Yes.
light, right? So it's this ripple effect by doing the right thing. And it's the human to human encounter, right? That,
Mhm.
that communication, that relationship building. I lived off of referrals within 3 years. I was 20 something years old. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a network, right? I was building my network. So that has, for me, 40 years later, still do the same thing. But you have to remain relevant with technology and all these other things. So everything's the same and yet everything is changing. Did that just make sense?
It did make sense. And I think it kind of explains the question I have to you. What made you decide to do the podcast?
So 15 years ago. So Glenn, seriously, the dinosaurs were still roaming when I
Yeah.
started podcasting.
Hmm.
Funny, the digital, right? The whole internet kind of exploded 15 years ago. But I received an email from the owner of Web Talk Radio, and he said, "Hey, man, I like your vibe on your digital vibe." I didn't know I had a digital vibe, but I was always a working mom, and then I was a woman business owner while my kids were babies, right?
Hmm.
So he said, "I just think you have a cool digital vibe." So I called my husband at work, Glenn, and I said, I think I'm getting punked. He goes, read the email. He goes, respond. What the heck? Fast forward 15 years later. Now I have 2 podcasts.
We'll see. If you had been stuck in your way, you'd have been like, no, there's no way I'm doing a podcast. That's not, I didn't go to school for that. Why would I ever put myself out there? And you probably touched hundreds of thousands of people's lives and improved
Yeah,
for the better. That's
which
good.
is freaking amazing. The other thing that after about 2 years, my producer said to me, you need to do video. Glenn, I swear to God, my response was, you out of your mind? Nobody wants this faith. I'm going live, right? And now, again, 15 years later, I've 400, 500 episodes. So yeah. All
Mhm.
right, back to you now.
Back to me. Okay.
Yes, back to you. But thank you for asking and being interested. I love that question. So now the customer success piece, right? We used to call it
Mhm.
customer service. Now it's the customer success. I do agree. You kind of alluded that it really sets the foundation or supports what we're doing on the sales side, right? So how do you think the client success play into that, the overall sales process, and how within your organization, how do you ensure that teams stay focused on delivering the value, the sales made, right? But then the rubber hits the road after the
Mhm.
fact, whether we have a lifelong client generating referrals, all those things. How do you bring those together?
Well, I will say I've kind of built the plane as I flew it because, like most things, just saying yes and learning, I got it because my boss said, I need you to do this for me. Just try it out. And it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years and two bosses. So the client success piece, I said, I believe customer service has become a bad word in any business. So you don't really call your team, oh, they'll just call customer service. We call it client experience or customer engagement or customer experience because it really is a catch-all for the rest. So you pretty much in any organization, you have your sales team, your operations team, you have your leaders, you have your finance, then you have your support functions, and then maybe legal and HR and things like that. The customer success piece, where does it fit? Does it go with sales? If it goes with sales, is it going to be a sales support and sales admin role? If it goes with marketing, is it going to be a demand gen, marketing, lead qualification, assign things to a sales rep? If it goes and it sits off on its own, who gives it the love and the attention that it needs in order to keep it moving forward.
Yeah.
So I think where I am now is I kind of serve as a bridge between the marketing function, the sales function, and then all of the post sales activities.
Yeah.
So everything as it relates to retention efforts, renewals, resigns, ad upgrades, billing, AR issues, challenges that are related to a service, our team or that version of my team, they can catch all and they can provide support back to the clients. And I think what we find in the surveys support this is I'm glad I was able to get a hold of someone on one call and get this solved. So I believe that the customer success, client experience, experience part of the business is mandatory at any stage. If you're a business owner and you don't have that, you need to do it. Or you need to hire someone that you trust who has great rapport building, who understands your systems, and let them be the one to help grow it out. Or go out to the market and find someone that has focused on customer success, client success over the previous 5 years. Because in a post-COVID sales world, we find that at a certain dollar amount, people are still comfortable going to chat, going to a form fill, or calling a number. That ain't gonna go away based on all of the things that we talked about at the beginning of the show, is people want the connection and they want an answer now about the
Yeah.
problem that they're dealing with. And here's the thing that I always tell my team, I've told clients in the past. Your client complaining to you is a huge gift because they could have just quit you. Think about it from a relationship standpoint. When
That's
we
right.
go to our spouse or our significant other and we have a problem to talk about, why are we talking about the problem? Because we want to solve it with them. We
That's right.
don't just say, you know what, I'm done, and then go out to the market and find someone new. We want to work through it. Now, after 4, 5, 6, 29 attempts, it's kind of like, okay, maybe you're not interested in solving this with me. And then we move on from the relationship. But I think that changing vendors in most instances is very expensive. It's from a cost and a time standpoint and an implementation standpoint. So most people really just want their problem fixed. And who better to fix the problem than in most instances, the person or the company that has made that problem exist for your client. So I think that it's very important for every organization of any size to have a focus on the customer success.
I agree. And I think they need to have partnerships, teams, whatever you want to call it too. And everybody should know what everybody's doing. So I deal with salespeople who have egos sometimes, and they think the little folk in the back. Well, those little folk in the back are going to make more money for you down the road, right? So
Mhm.
we need to make sure that they're trained, that they understand, that you respect them. Because when
Mhm.
you go in and you're condescending, like, handle the call, like, who do you think you are? That makes my head explode. We're a team driving the business forward, and
Mhm.
every department, marketing, your frontline, whatever, the client facing, your support staff, to make sure that deals go in correctly, that the contracts are done from a compliance standpoint, depending on the industry. All of that has to work. It's not just about the sales person bringing in the new deal. We have to have a well-oiled machine behind, and the customer success, I think, is exponentially important. And it's
Mhm.
funny because when you said the customer service, when I think about calling Comcast, or I don't know who you have by you with the,
We have Comcast, but Cox, Time Warner, all of those guys.
it's, oh my God, how long? I have to book out 2 hours because I know I'm going to be on hold for nine hours with them until I
Mhm.
get someone who can help me. That
Yeah,
to me isn't a good customer experience. We just don't have a choice because here we have Comcast or Verizon. That's it, right?
that's
So
it.
we're limited. Yeah. We're almost out of time, but I do have one more question. We talked
Okay.
about technology a little bit before. How do you see technology evolving the sales process? And I know your zone of genius is in automotive and consumer electronics, but how do you see that technology evolving and creating shifts in our sales processes?
So I think it'll be the evolution of the tech stack. So I think there was a big push in the 2010s. All of these SaaS companies came up, and they were all unique because each of them tried to solve one problem better
Mm,
than the predecessor.
mm,
And so I think what happens as customer service teams or client success teams became more of the norm, sales enablement and sales operations teams began to be stood up. They
mm-hmm,
became the housing for all of this tech stack. I've had clients that have had two CRMs, three demand gen tools, three or four phone trees, and it's just because everything solved a problem a little bit better than what they had. And I
yeah,
think where we're going to go over the rest of this decade, we're going to see people slim down the tech stack because
yeah,
I think those industries are starting to consolidate a lot faster. And you're going to have options the way you have options through a couple of companies. You got Google, you got Microsoft, you got Apple. They all have a tech, they all have a stack. Then you got Salesforce, you got HubSpot, you got Five9, Zoom, you got Zoom Info, Seamless AI. So there are all of these things and all of these tools that do customer relationship management, data hygiene, data cleansing, demand gen, Looker Studio, which is now owned by Google. I think there's going to be a slimming down and a more specialization and a choice companies are going to be able to make to have a more integrated tech stack that goes from lead development, qualification, to nurture, to sales, to implementation, to support, and to renewal. And
yeah,
I think that we've already started to see it with all of the seed investments that are going on from maybe the big five tech companies and what they're buying and how strategically they're buying it, to where by 2030, we'll be able to have one rep, one client success person from Microsoft that can manage me with LinkedIn, all of the Microsoft live products, the CRM. God forbid they got Dynamics, but God forbid they buy Zoho, and then all of that will be in one place and it'll be able to control the life cycle. That solves two problems. For the SaaS company or the tech company, it makes the customer sticky because right now we every 2 years we're flipping and we're going through procurement and we're trying to run tests and we're trying to give access to our systems, and it just creates all of this workflow, which is why sales operations has been stood up. And for the other piece, for the business, we'll now have one relationship to manage with one vendor who will, like what we do, be embedded into the business to understand the evolving needs as the business continues to flow through. And I think the salespeople that understand that will continue to be rewarded in that space around technology. I think the founders and the companies that understand that will position themselves better for merger or acquisition. And then I believe just the end user experience will be the main beneficiary because I deliver me from having to go to 5 different tabs just to make a phone call.
Yep.
I want to go to one place and get all of the information to make sure my data is up to date, have a score, an intent score on a buyer, and see their last 5 attempts that we've had. I just want it in one place. I don't want to go everywhere else because my day is that busy. I'm leading a team, leading an organization, developing people, trying to hit a number, and I don't have time, as I can see my time getting shorter to deal with all of those different tools.
And this has happened since the beginning of time, right? We had the human doing the creation of whatever the widget. They were make the widget. You had people actually gluing and putting pieces together. Then we had the Industrial Revolution, where now we had these conveyor belts, right, doing the work. So we had a little bit of automation. It's the same thing now. The technology, you know, and Elon Musk said it. The AI is out of Pandora's box. We're not really sure what to do with it yet. So we're kind of catching up to that. But we're going to see that consolidation, I think, across industries, not in just the tech. And you see it happen in the banking world. Mergers are happening all the time, that the smaller banks are getting gobbled up by these bigger banks because the return isn't there. I have one admin group. I don't need 3 admin groups with these smaller banks. I think we're going to see it in the school districts. New Jersey is crazy with the number of school districts we have, the number of superintendents. I think all of that consolidation is economically necessary, but also you'll end up with the best of the best of the best by bringing all of these minds together, and you don't have that redundancy. So yeah, it goes back to, right, enlightenment to change, name of the show. We have to be relevant. We have to keep changing and evolving. But I agree with you. I think that consolidation is going to happen across the board. It's, you know, it's kind of, I'm on the back 9, right, dude? But I have to tell you, and I say this to my husband all the time, it's a very exciting time to be alive. Very exciting time to still be in business, that I still have so much to learn. Even after being in business 25 years, every day I'm like, I didn't know that. How did I not know that? Things are evolving all the time. And now we're ready to hear, or we understand, or whatever it is, that the business is ready for that next step. It's pretty cool stuff that's happening, I think, in the world.
Very cool stuff. It's all very exciting. And I try to relay that message to my team. Goodness
Yeah.
sake.
Yeah. And your kids, right? How old are your kids?
As of this recording, 4 and 2. But
Oh,
they
so
they got birthdays at the turn
yeah,
of the year.
yeah, they're little guys, little boys, girls,
I have boy and then girl.
boy and girl. So you have one of each. I have 2 boys, they're men. And I keep what I said before, when they got the jobs and they'd come, you know, we were all during COVID, right, living home. And they'd come down and say, yo, you know, they want me to work overtime. And I said, and your response was, sure, I can do that, right? They want you to learn. Can you help us with this new system? Sure, I'll learn that. And now fast forward, they've gotten multiple promotions, and right, make yourself relevant. And I tell my kids this, you're in control of your life. If you end up not liking the company, find another job while you still have the job, right? Don't be financially stupid. But yeah, we are always in control. Do with it as you please, right? That's the bottom line. All right, guys. So listen, Glenn's my friend, but you need to have a little more Glenn in your life. So go to his website, check out his stuff, because he really is. You can see he's smart. He's cool, right? He's just a good guy. But check him out. It's glennsandifer.com. I will put that in the show notes. If you have a question specific for your company, organization, your career, if you want to work with Glenn, info@glennsandifer.com. Glenn, thank you so much for being on. And you really, really get the umbrella picture of business and all of the mechanics that need to kind of work in tandem to be successful, not only as the individual, but the salesperson, the person, right? Whatever role you have, but then the organization as a whole. We have to really be functioning on all throttles, or all pistons, if you will, to make sure that we keep moving forward. So thank you so much. Really clear and good insights. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And thank you for your time, Connie. And thanks to the audience for sticking with us this long. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, it's cool, man. It's cool. All right. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover, no matter where you are on your change, right? Whatever you're dealing with right now. I really hope my guests and I provide some things for you to think about, thought-provoking. Here's the deal. Information's a beautiful thing. If you do nothing with it, information in your brain. Put it into action, the ripple effect that Glenn and I spoke about, that will happen to you. It's gonna happen to you. It's just the law of the world. So put these ideas, take action after this. First action I would do is go to Glenn's website, good call to action, see what he's about, see if it can help you within your organization and or business. Glenn, thank you again for being on, and thank you for joining me on Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. I am truly inspired that you come every week, show up and listen to the show and hear my guests and I have our conversations. And our goal, my guests and I combine, just grow, learn, make life a little bit easier if you can. And at the end of the day, let's all make money and share it with the world so that we could do some pretty good things out there. I love you all. I will see you next week. Have a great week. Be inspired. Take care.